Everybody, this is Ryan Robitaille, and I just wanted to do a real quick run through of a couple of notable features for Data Rabbit Alpha 3, which is out now. You can go to the website and download it, datarabbit.com. So, first of all, this is release notes. This is on the website. There'll be a link to this in this video. A whole bunch of cool stuff here, but I'm going to focus on two main things. So, number one, block kits. So pre-built blocks that can be treated as primitive blocks on the palette menu, which is this guy here. And two, custom server block type, as you can see here. It's basically a special closure block that runs a two-step wrapper to run external code. Okay, what the hell does that mean? So a week or two ago, I was asked to present Data Rabbit to the Clojurians Visual Tools meetup, which was awesome. A bunch of great people there, run by Daniel Slutsky. And deep into the talk, someone said, hey, could I have a Python block? Could I have a Julia block? Could I have a, R block? And I thought about that a lot. It was never in the design to do that, but after like a weekend or so, I was thinking about it. I'm like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I don't want to throw away the whole closureness of the tool. The tool is and always will be like a love letter, closure, and ClojureScript, right? But how do I do this? Because I'm a data engineer. And I have tons of scripts everywhere. I have some old Python 2 code that I still run for screen scraping, etc. So this is a real need. In your flow, it makes sense to have something to do, reach outside of our closure bubble, right, in the same flow. So I came up with some requirements. So it has to be user space. It can't be some hard-coded thing that I put in there to hack around some stuff that I only understand, or you have to recompile the tool to get access to it. No. So number one, it has to be user space editable. Two, it has to run off the blob. I wrote blob here. It has to be like off the shelf, off the blog, right? I should have put a cut and paste code from like Clojure or excuse me, for Python or whatever, and it should run here without being modified. It has to run native, quote unquote, with Rabbit blocks in the flow, meaning there should be ability for me to send in Rabbit flow data and get out Rabbit flow data. However that is. And then again, allow for multiple languages. This can't be hard-coded just Python or R. This has to be able to do anything. And ideally, it should be a good thing for DSL languages as well. So let's see what it came up with. All right, let's go to a blank flow here. As you can see, I have some stuff saved as kits. I'll get to that in a second. So let us get rid of him and drag in a Python 3 block. So as you can see, nothing super exciting, from Rabbit exec, Python 3, the binary, the version. This is the working directory, which is important. It says Rabbit inputs from dict params. That'll come up in a second. Dict keys none. So hello from Python 1, 2, 3. And you see we have here literally just Python code. There's some comments and there's some Rabbit hinting here, which we'll get to. But I can run this just like anything else in Python. Instead of 4, I want 7. Comes back, here's my REPL output, here's my code, all good. You can see I'm defining a variable called welcome string here, and then printing it. And you can see, hello from Python welcome string. But then I'm also saying down here in the comments, I'm saying comment Rabbit output welcome string, which is basically telling this wrapper to, okay, when you're done executing this, grab this variable or list of variables and send it to Rabbit. So you see up here, this hello from Python. So this is actually sent to Python user space now as the output. So if I were to step back here and drag out from this block, you would see that its output in pure Rabbit blockiness, right, is hello from Python. That works both ways. So I can say, hey, let's bring a ClojureScript block in here. And I'm going to say, hi from CLJS. And we're going to drag that into here. Now, you can see it's coming in, but nothing's happening, so I'm not using it. But if you look over here to my boilerplate, or my, output, Rabbit inputs and dict params, dict keys in, right? So I can see I have this in block. So what if I wanted to say, so params a dictionary with all the inputs in it. Params in says hi from hello from Python, hello from CLJS, and we're speaking on hello from Python. Cool, some basic Python stuff. You can see I added a little timer there just for the hell of it since I'm wrapping. Okay, great hello world, right? Let's do something more complicated. All right, so let me go to a different layout. that for a second. And then I'll grab some other code. This is from a machine learning tutorial with the iris data set. If anyone's familiar with that, throw that in here. Takes more of a second to run, and as you can see, it's running all kinds of stuff. There's some seaborne plots. There's some, pandas, pie plot stuff going on. Basically training a model and visualizing it. So you can see up here, not only do you have multiple data sets coming out, data preview, data description, and data distribution, which if you look at what those are, data preview is just a pandas data frame converted to a dict. Same thing with description to dict. But now that these are rabbit objects, I can, drag them to my panels and do all manner of things, right? I have the preview, which normally would be, this text representation in the REPL or console output for Python. Here's the other preview. And we also have these SVGs that I created, that were created with the code, which is pretty common for some of these, like, PyPlot, Matplotlib stuff. And we can look at those. Very cool. And as you see, output out zero auto, or out zero auto is this row set, which is the row set from the Python script. So now, since this is in Rabbit, we can treat this as a regular Rabbit row set if we wanted to. Like I could say row and say maybe, I don't know, distinct species, and I'll get the 3 iris species, or, reaggregate to species, and then do, this is, you wouldn't do this, but just an example of how it comes out. Now we have this lazy output of the averages per species from the iris data from the Python script, which is pretty cool. So what else can we do here? So instead of -CLJS, let us add a slider. And we're going to say the slider is going to start with minimum of 1, maximum of 1.0. We're going to step in 1. So let's see how this works. Cool, generating a float, awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag this into the input. It's going to rerun because it detected, a change. We're going to get rid of this guy. And now that we have this in parameter here, this 0.3, I'm going to say, let us go to testing size and just say params in, which should be that floating 0.3. As you can see, it sends the 0.3 in, it changes the values. Let me add this here. This guy here, so we can see that it's changing. Maybe go to like 7. So we're running the whole script with the new values. It changes the visualizations out of the box, as if that's a kind of a cascading variable. Changes everything all the way down the pipeline, which is cool. We can even, there's some added graphs that I took in this tutorial here that I can add. Some seaborne graphs, a cool like tree. It's running, and you can see we added these 2 graphs here, this tree and this nice, distribution seaborne graph. So cool. So I have this one Python block that's doing all these things. But the kicker is Rabbit blocks by default only allow one output, right? The output of this block will always be a single thing. In this case, it's this data set. It could be a graph. It could be one of these graphs, and that'll be fine. But maybe I want to use a bunch of these graphs. Maybe I want some of these graphs to be in a composer, right, to make for a dashboard. So let me get rid of these 2 hello world blocks right here. So another feature that was added, besides the easy way to drag these to the editor panels, that's kind of a shortcut, that I can also take these outputs. So these, consider this could be any REPL output from an NREPL or just a regular closure REPL, but in this case it happens to be the Python block. I can drag these out to the canvas also, and it basically just makes an alias function and says, hey, these editor panels that you have in this block, can you just show it to me outside the canvas? Which is really nice if I want to have, this is all spawned from this single block. If I change this again, it'll regenerate the images and they'll all go out here to all these descendant blocks. But the cool thing about separating them out instead of being out of the editor panel is that, there's no code here. It's basically saying, hey, this block that I came from, get me this thing. Because this SVG is already generated. There's no more work. There's no re-rendering. There's no nothing. It's just basically taking what its parent did and bringing it out as a separate thing. And that's really cool because then I can take, a regular Rabbit view composer and say, hey, I want this, I want this guy, I want this guy, I want this guy, throw the slider in there, maybe some of this, some of that, and let us do this, let's do this vertically, just for the hell of it. I would arrange these better if this were, a dashboard, a regular dashboard. But for example, here they all are. What I would normally do is say, hey, we'll make these floating, right? And then I'd go in here and I'd basically, put them all where they need to be. But anyways, in this case, we have them as a dashboard. And we can still control the slider, which still controls the output since it's all linked together. So that's a single Python block that created all these graphs that I can now use wherever. I could have this dashboard. It could be mixed in with closure blocks. It can be mixed in with some other blocks. It really doesn't matter. So how does this work, right? Well, it's pretty straightforward, honestly. So each of these external blocks has two parts to it: the code, the external code, and the wrapper. This little thing called custom here is basically more closure that tells it how to interpret this code. In this case, it's printing out the shell, it's asking you to configure where the binary is, and this is all saved in this flow. There's none of this hard code in the server or nothing. And it's pretty naive, right? I'm pre-penning some stuff to pull in the parameters and turn them, get them from EDN, turn them into dictionaries, etc., and put them in as variables in the Python. And then we execute the code on the left, which is this block code. And then I'm pulling out whatever I see in Rabbit output to these. The images automatically show up here, but I'm pulling out that and generating that code here. And it's pretty naive. You can hack this and change this however you want for every use case, but this works really good as a pretty general purpose usage, for Python at least. But the user never needs to see this. If the user just wants to write Python, they can come over here and I have my templates flow that has some cool stuff in it. Canvas, there's a quill drawing, some UI that gets used a lot. And then we have the basic hello world Python block. And that's where all this wrapper code comes from. So they can just pull out a Python block and it works fine. Same thing with R, right? Here's the same thing with R. I have, my R output, some randomized scatter plot. And then the same thing, this is my A variable that's powering this plot. And I can say Rabbit output A, and it turns this into EDN to send out, to view it in Clojure. Well, to view it in Rabbit, I guess. Output there. And this is where the kits come in. As you can see, this is the basic R block, and I have this palette highlighted, which means show it as a kit. You can see on the left, it appears and disappears. I can have a random block that is, hello Clojure script. And then if this is something that's really useful, I am useful. This is something that my people that use this tool want to use. I could say here, select this as a palette, and you can see I am useful shows up, and it can be reused over and over again. And they can fork it off from there, which is really handy, especially for this kind of stuff, like, the basic color picker, slider. I even have this is a JDBC connection to the built-in data samples with Rabbit, which is also helpful. And not only is it configured in terms of the data and the code that's in it, but if you see, it's configured in terms of the way the editor is laid out as well, right? You know, these have a single output, they have the output window and then the code, whereas the JDBC one has, you know, the JDBC, and then it has the table dragger here, right? So big for sightings here, you know, big for location here, you know, we've shown that in previous videos, but yeah, so two cool things. This is a lot longer than I wanted it to be, apologies, but very, very cool. It opens the door for a lot more interesting things. And yeah, check out the website and the release notes, and I will see you all later. Peace.